past is in the past, or at least that's what they say. You're not supposed to go chasing after it like some desperate love-struck teenager. I hate the way that he says it to me, though, telling me to grow up, to take some responsibility. I'm making money, so what does it matter? Oh, but it's not real work, he says. It's not a real job, says the angel who rides a bike to work every day. Whether he wants to admit it or not, I'm actually a professional in my field. You could say that I'm an asset to the company. I'm so good that even the grinning head honcho himself comes down from his throne just to give me a pat on the back every once in a while. Keep up the good work, Kuro. It may not seem like much, but it feels good to hear someone who actually appreciates me. I never got so much as a hello all through high school. Even the teachers were scared of me. To most people, I was just Dark, the misfit angel boy who hates to talk. Out here, though, out on the streets, I feel alive. Kuro is what they call me, and honestly, it always sounded so much cooler than Dark. Dark is just stupid. It's rather redundant, my boss would say. It's like referring to the sea as water, or to the wind as air. A daredevil like you deserves something much more befitting, something that fades into the night and possibly has a nice ring to it. And thus, Kuro was born. And oh, how I love it so. It represents the bond that I share with my awesome friends, my family, and it reminds me that no matter what I do, I'll always be connected to someone out there who likes me for who I am. Not like Pitstain, who thinks that I'm constantly going out at night is bad for my health. He worries way too much sometimes, but not once have I ever told him about my second name. He'd think it was some type of gang sign, like the triangle tattoos that all the Grudos wear. I never told him about that either, and hopefully he never sees it. And as long as I keep a shirt on my back, he never will. One day, Pitt approached me with a job offer, but it wasn't like any mailroom junkie spot at the paratrooper post this time. He had his hand on an envelope with a star stamp smudged on the corner of it. Apparently, there was a new comic book store opening up in town, and it was also a reasonable walking distance from our place, which more or less meant that if I got the job, there won't be any excuse for me to play hokey. The pay is minimum wage, but that's better than nothing, right? He asked me, almost in desperation. He was smiling on the outside, but deep down I could tell he was dangling by a thread. He was practically shaking as he handed me the note. Dark? I didn't say a word as I skimmed the details. Not only was I being paid dirt, but I also was expected to work different shifts throughout the week, though some days early in the morning while others were late at night. I also had to show up on time and make sure that I was meeting the dress code, and most importantly, I had to know a thing or two about comic books. Comic books were a waste of time. Forget it. I tossed the letter on the floor before making my way to the door. I'm not that desperate for a job. Little did he know that I already had a job. He stops me as I leave, blocking the exit with his body. His smile somewhat melted, his lips quivering as he grasped me by the arms. Please don't do this to me again, he pleads. I'm just trying to help. I don't need your help, I reply flatly. I'm doing fine on my own. Doing what? Staying out late at night, causing trouble downtown? Every time I come home, you're either gone or sleeping till 3 in the afternoon. You can't keep doing this to me. I noticed his shoulders droop, followed by his head, and the next thing I knew, the whiny baby had his arms wrapped around my wings. I resisted only for a moment, feeling warm tears trickle down my skin. I love you, he says. Don't go down there anymore. I want you to be safe. I want you to be happy. I stood there with his hair in my face, wishing that he could just understand. I'm not a good guy. I'm not just someone who can go through 15 years of mindless education and be brought up in some mechanical corporation, then finally set off on my own where I can just exist for the rest of my life. Going out at night, going downtown, that's where I felt free. It's where I could express myself, where I could go to work hard and see the fruits of my accomplishment bloom in an instant. It's where I fit in. He was crying now. His sobs reminded me of something that I had seen in those cheesy drama shows we used to watch when we were kids. He wasn't trying to be a mother to me this time, though. This time, he was really upset. I couldn't determine what I was feeling at the moment, nor could I find the words to describe the tugging pain at my heart. I guess you could call it sympathy. I pray, he says, every night I pray to our goddess. Do you care? He looks up at me, his fingers clawing out my shirt, his big eyes welled with frustration. Do you? I look at him. I don't know what to say. Of course I care. I mean, he's my brother after all. If anything were to happen to him, I'd probably be really pissed off. In this world, he was the only family I had, and the only one related to me by blood anyway. Even though it was unusually amused It unusually amused me whenever Mr. Goody Two-Shoes groveled like this. This time, I wasn't feeling anything. I was just absent, as if I had left the answering machine to do all the talking for me. Please, say something. It was here where I left with one of two choices, and there was a good chance that making the wrong choice would end up with one of us moving out permanently. On the other hand, doing what he says not only would make him happy, but also shut him up. The question is, would I be able to live would I be able to live with the thought that this one proposal could possibly change my life forever? Lucky for him, I was always the risk taker in the family. You're hopeless, I finally say with a sigh. All right, Pitt, you win. I'll apply for this stupid job if it makes you happy. He continues to stare at me, and honestly, I was expecting a response just as much. I wasn't expecting that response just as much as I was. But so help me if it turns out to be pointless. This is the last time I do anything for you. Got it? He let go of me, but he didn't look very pleased at all. His face was still stained with glossy tears, though, much like the crybaby I remember growing up with. You're not doing this for me, he says. You're doing this for yourself. As I've done before, and I will continue to do to the day I die. I didn't expect to be hanging around that comic book store for more than a week. What with those nerds and whatever else earthly scum frequent those types of places? My plan was try it and get sick of it, and just tell him that no regular job would ever be good enough for me. Besides, I'd be throwing away the great friends I've already made. Not to mention my reputation as one of the most dangerous punks to mess around with in town. And if those guys ever saw me working at a comic book store, heck, I'd never live it down. When I told the boss man about this, he seemed pleasantly surprised. With his normally wide grin, seemed to grow with every detail that I mentioned about the new job. As I stood there in the rain atop the new Smashopolis Goldenrod Bridge, the grinning man continued to stare as he waited for my masterful punchline. Though the moist surrounding his umbrella, he appeared to be as ominous as a spirit, his silhouette, just a mound of a trench coat. You're serious then, he says. You're leaving us? Not for long, I reply. I'm just doing it to keep my brother off my back. Just give me about a week or two. He's not amused, but then again, he hardly ever was. If he wasn't grinning, he was usually scowling, but that face was not one that anyone would want to see. Believe me. This could be rather interesting then, the grinning man ponders for a few seconds. With you taking leave of absence, perhaps the many others will grow to miss your company. I will not speak for myself, Koro, but I know for a fact that there are several folks around here who wish to spend more time with you. And they'll get their chance. I know to whom he prefers. And honestly, they're not the worst bunch of misfits in the world. I just need some time off is all. I just hope that things don't go too boring while I'm away. There's never a dull day in this business, he laughs, and I'm starting to feel my wings freeze up with the water droplets. I really should have thought about bringing a jacket. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I do believe that you deserve some much-needed vacation time. So go and do whatever your heart's content. Just make sure that you do not forget about us by the time you finish. He says that as a hard reminder, almost as though he's expecting me to forget. But how could I, though? They're the best thing that's ever happened to me since I started living in this place of a city. To go back to on my word would be backstabbing a family that's practically raised me in these slums. I promise, I say. Thanks a lot. Fly now, Koro, he said with his hands raised. Fly to your temporary perch, and be sure to enjoy the view while it lasts. After all, that's what life's all about. I hastily take my leave, finally getting out of this stupid rain. I didn't see the grinning man for another 4 months after that. And so, as the old saying warns, I didn't go chasing after my past. I left it right where I found it, and I planned on returning to it once again once I was done taking out the trash. Although, I didn't get a chance to say my goodbyes. I knew that everyone would be waiting for my arrival, yearning for the day that Kuro would take the streets once more and cause trouble like he did in the golden age of crime. It was the end of an era, and the wake of something new to sprout. Little did I realize that this time, no matter how far away the past may linger, it never truly disappears. No one ever said anything about the past coming to chase me, though.